I've never installed one of these interior sliding doors, or as they're sometimes called, barn doors. There used to be a pocket door on the left side of the entrance here that the homeowners wanted to get rid of when we did the bathroom remodel. So the barn door idea seemed like a good solution. You have rollers that mount to the door, you mount the rail to a header board that gets screwed to the wall, and you want to make sure that the rail is level, and then you hang the door on the rail. So it's not very complicated, so what could possibly be difficult about this? Well, let's see how we got here and how we deal with it. There are a few things that aren't real obvious about installing this type of barn door hardware until you get into it. The first is that the door has to be oversized for the opening. If you're going to use a standard door, which is the cheaper way to go, you're going to have to make some modifications to it to enlarge it, most likely on the height side. In this case, we have a 32-inch wide opening, so a 36-inch wide door works perfectly. But to make it work height-wise, needed to add about 3.5 inches. I have a door that is 79 7/8 long, tall, which is standard. But I need the overall length of the door for this particular unit to be 83 1/4. So what I'm going to do is add a spacer on the top and the bottom so that at least it will kind of match. I've also cut a header board, so it's 72 inches long, 5.5 wide. The rail will get mounted right to the center of this. So we'll see how that goes together. I'm going to just put one screw in it to hold it in place until I make sure everything's going to line okay. I'm going to use a countersink 1/4 inch bit to give me a little hole here, and then I'll fill this with plugs or little buttons after the fact and give it a nice finish. You're going to want to make sure you hit a stud in the wall here when you're installing this header. So if you don't know where they are, you need to figure that out. Another question I had that wasn't addressed very well by the instructions or the template was how high does the rail need to be from the floor, which means you have to figure out how high above the door do the wheels need to be to line up with the rail and the floor. So I sort of eased my way through this process by mounting the header where I knew I needed to mount it, and then securing the wheels to the door where I figured they needed to go, and used the template from the instructions as a reference. Then I could set the door in place and make a pretty good guess from there as to where the top of the rail needed to be mounted. I drilled a pilot hole for a lag bolt and then mounted the left side of the rail to the header board, and then swung it up into its position on the right side and drilled a hole for that bolt, being careful to make sure that I mounted the rail level. The hole in the rail on the right side was a little more of a slot than a hole, so it can be moved up or down and adjusted a little bit to fine-tune the placement of the rail. With the rail in place and the bolts tightened, the rollers can now be set on the rail, and we're ready for the final steps of the installation. That involves putting some hardware in place that mounts to the end of each side of the rail and locks in place to keep the door on the rail. There are also a couple of small cushions that are screwed into the top of the door and keep the door from bouncing off the rail if it's slammed into the stop hardware on either end of the rail. Now, why does our door drift about 1 foot from left to right when it is in the closed position? I mean, the rail is level and the wheels are secured to the door. Some of you may have a better explanation for that than I do, but my first thought on this was, oh great, this is going to be a real pain to keep adjusted. The fact that the door only moved about 1 foot from left to right led me to conclude that there must be a slight dip in the rail that's part of the manufacturing process of it. But in the end, after talking to the homeowners, this is what we came up with. First, this is a bathroom door that primarily needs to be either open or closed. Since the bathroom's been totally remodeled, it's most likely that the door will be left open, except for when it's in use. So the fact that the door tends to want to slide to the right or in the open position is not necessarily a bad thing. We just need for it to stay closed when it needs to be closed. After some thought, we came up with this solution, which is working great. I took a couple of magnets and embedded them in blocks that were then mounted on the back side of the door and up against the trim on the right side of the door jamb. So when the door gets near to the closed position, the magnets take over and pull together, and in doing so keep the door closed. Plus, the magnets are never really seen. With the door guides mounted to the floor and holding the door vertically solid, the magnets have no chance to do anything except be drawn together when the door is closed. We need to come up with a sliding bolt type lock for inside the bathroom, since this is a bathroom door, but that's an easy fix. So anyway, fun project and nice result. So if you enjoyed this, click to subscribe to my channel and check out other videos related to this bathroom remodel, as well as other projects that have been happening in the shop.